What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday over here. We're going to be talking about some very key points for the crypto markets today, and especially some key signals indicating crypto markets next move. And of course, that's going to revolve around Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the driver of this market. If Bitcoin dumps, you can expect your altcoins to be dumping or shortly after. Also, we're going to be talking about a few altcoins on this market, which would include HBAR, which is Hedera, Hashgraph, Solana, and JASMY. Take a look into what's going on in these altcoins, what their setups are, some price targets for these coins, and of course, if you guys do want to make any technical analysis requests for me in this video, so I can pick one and choose to actually do one live on the video, make sure to like and subscribe and comment what you want to see. I will do an analysis on any market, and I will choose one to do on the next video. And of course, if you guys are new to my channel, you guys should know that I dive deep into the charts every day, and we find the moves here before they actually happen, because that's a lot lower risk than chasing a pump on the day of, right? And we use technical analysis and charts to do it in this video and in this channel. So if you guys do want to learn technical analysis and see the markets much more clearly for yourself, make sure to like and subscribe and comment if you have any questions. Let's take a look into Bitcoin. Very important consolidation that we're having here, because as I mentioned yesterday, there is a double bottom pattern here on a 6-hour time frame. Okay, double bottoms usually break to the upside. Now we are seeing some resistance and rejections here before price action even gets to that 105k area. Okay, namely at about just mid 104s here. If you guys do see these candle rejections on the 6-hour, and it's very important that right now we're looking for a break above this trend line here. Okay, even a 1-hour candle break above this top trend line here would tell me that this would increase the chance of Bitcoin breaking out of this double bottom pattern. Okay, so first of all, break above this upper trend line and then break above 105k. Okay, that's going to be looking good for Bitcoin in the short term, and of course for crypto. Now, there is still a chance that this double bottom pattern fails, right? Even though, we talk about these patterns and their chances of breaking in either direction, there is still a chance that it goes in the other direction, right? In that case, we could possibly be looking at a falling wedge here. Okay, we do have the upper trend line, okay, and the bottom trend line could be looking something more like this. And I'm tracking the daily 21 SMA because that is the next likely support that Bitcoin will have. So if this double bottom pattern fails, this could be what we're looking at. And that's going to mean that we're going to be in for more consolidation and possibly quite a bit of a little bit more of a pullback for Bitcoin here. Now, daily time frame, still very important, still very key indicator I'm looking at here is that we are above the daily 200 SMA after we have actually actually broke below it for a little bit of time, right? And now we're actually we have solid price action above the daily 200 SMA, and not only in the crypto markets but also in the S&P 500, as well as total 3, right, which is altcoin markets excluding Ethereum. Now, I want to talk about one more chart here for Bitcoin, very important chart, which is the weekly time frame, right, where we do have a slightly higher high on this price action chart comparing to this high right here, but we do have a lower high on the RSI. That is usually a reversal signal, right? Now, how deep this reversal would take us, we are still looking to see, right? But this is the weekly time frame. This is very important because if we start getting red weekly candles, that could last for some time, okay? There has been exceptions where, especially during major breakouts, that these reversal signals could get invalidated. Namely, and most particularly, back in November, okay, we had bearish divergence on this weekly time frame. We had higher high, this breakout candle here, okay, and we compare it to these previous highs here. There has been bearish divergence there, okay, but it just continued going. The next example, which you guys can actually look for yourself, is on the monthly time frame during the 2021 breakout, 2020-2021 breakout on the monthly time frame. That was also when these bearish divergence signals were invalidated and the price action just continued surging. So there are exceptions, but usually bearish divergence means a reversal. So something to be keeping in mind. Total 3 still very important here because recently it has broken above its daily 200 SMA. And currently we are back at that level, retesting it. Very important that Total 3 holds this daily 200 SMA, but as long as Bitcoin is above it, I don't see why altcoin markets cannot hold above the daily 200 SMA here. ES1 exclamation mark, which is S&P 500 mini futures, also another very important chart to be paying attention to because it has very high correlation with Bitcoin, and it could be a front-running signal for Bitcoin and, of course, the altcoin markets. We have gotten some pretty solid candle price action above the daily 200 SMA, which is the orange line. So that is very important signal right there, okay? In the shorter term, hourly time frame, let's take a look in seeing what S&P 500 could do for the next week, okay? We do have some short-term weakness here, okay? We have, I would still consider this to be bearish divergence, right? We have a higher high on this hourly time frame, but still, I just don't like how this RSI reading is, right? It's slightly higher high. In my books, that is still bearish divergence. So something to be paying attention to, as the S&P 500 could have some short-term pullbacks. Let's take a look into some altcoin setups because I know that you guys are more interested in altcoins, but Bitcoin still has to go first, okay? Whenever I'm trading altcoins, I keep the Bitcoin chart in the back of my mind, right? That is the first chart I will be remembering before I look at any altcoin setups. Let's take a look into JASMY. See what is going on in this market. I've talked about JASMY, okay? On this monthly time frame, we are not in overbought territory, so that is good. That means we're not near a potential peak. Now, weekly time frame, talked about this, okay? Falling wedge pattern. We broke out a couple weeks ago, right? And price target out of this pattern is about 3.9 cents. Now, price targets are estimates only, okay? It could be more or less. What I usually do when it comes to these bigger altcoins is that I will if the price action actually goes to reach its price targets and it consolidates there, what I would do is I would chart that consolidation pattern to see where the price action could be going from there. Right now, it is at the weekly 21 SMA as resistance. These moving averages you should definitely be paying attention to, because they could be resistance if it's above the price action and support if it's below. All right, let's take a look into daily time frame. Daily time frame, after this price action broke out of that bigger falling wedge pattern, it had a smaller falling wedge pattern here. Talked about this last time. Price target was about 1.95 cents. Broke above that, went to as far as about 2.15 cents. And basically right now it's retesting that daily 21 SMA. Okay, let's take a look into the 4-hour time frame, see if we can get any clues on what this price action could be doing. All right, this looks like another very common pattern that you will see very often. Of course, it's the falling wedge. You take the opening of the pattern for measurements. This is how you get the price target. And then you put it on top of a expected breakout point. Right now, it is at that top trend line, right? So let's just say if it breaks out by the next 4-hour candle, let's just say, then we have a price target of about just right above 2 cents here for JASMY. All right, so we can come back to revisit these charts later, right, and see which way the price action actually breaks. Let's take a look into Solana. We have not talked about Solana, okay? So let's take a look into the monthly time frame, see if we have what kind of a reading we have on the RSI there. That's very important, okay, that we're not in overbought territory. Because if you guys actually take a look into what happens when an altcoin reaches overbought territory, I think this is one example, right? It's a reference point. It's gonna be in for quite a bit of a downward ride here. Okay, so that's why I look into the monthly time frame RSI. Right now, it is trying to stay above that monthly 21 SMA at about $140. Weekly time frame. Talked about, well, I think I probably charted this on my own because I don't think we've talked about Solana in this channel, at least recently. This is, of course, you guys know, this is going to be your falling wedge pattern, okay? Measure targets out of this pattern since it broke out already. It's going to be about just right underneath $245. Okay, it is at moving averages as resistance. You have both the weekly 21 SMA and the 50 just right at about $170. Let's take a look into a shorter time frame, see what this could be doing. It is trying to break above the daily 200 SMA, orange line at about $180. Some reversal signal here that, actually played out, right? We had bearish divergence playing out, right? And let's see on the 4-hour time frame if we can get any clues on what this price action could be doing. Let's see if this is a valid pattern. And it is. It's another falling wedge. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be a very common pattern you guys should be looking out for. All right, let's just say if it breaks out by this point, measure move, it's going to be about $185 Solana. Now, Solana is a bigger altcoin, so it's going to be harder to move. It's not going to be like your altcoins ranked 400 and below, right? So these are going to be a little harder to move in terms of its price. I usually trade these bigger altcoins on leverage when I am lower on margin, and of course when I think Bitcoin is in a more extended consolidation, because it's less risky. It's not going to go down as much as some of these smaller altcoins, though they don't move as quickly or in just as much, right? But it's less risky. But that is just me personally. I don't recommend anyone trading leverage unless you have had some profitable experience trading spots, right? And of course, none of what I'm saying here is financial advice, just purely my opinions. All right, so this is what I'm seeing for Solana. Let's take a look into HBAR. HBAR, I think we talked about this quite a few days ago. Okay, we're not going to take a look at the monthly time frame because you guys get the point. Now, weekly time frame here, of course, very similar pattern, very familiar pattern. Broke out of this just last week, HBAR, actually. It's going to be about 36 cents here, measure targets. If this price action reaches this price targets, we're going to come back if you guys do want to keep seeing more of HBAR. Do like, subscribe, and comment, letting me know you guys do want to see more of this or any of these coins we talked about or any other coins I will pick and request to do on the next video. All right, so it is at the weekly 21 as resistance at about 22 cents. Daily time frame. What could we be doing here? Okay, we had a rejection at the daily 200 SMA, currently at about 21 cents. Support currently is the daily 21 SMA, okay, 19 cents. Shorter time frame. All right, it's going to be your very common theme here. Okay? And you guys already know. You guys can spot these pretty easily if you guys just get used to charting. All right? Very perfect. Falling wedge here. Let's just say if it breaks out by this point, that'll give you a price target of just right about 22 cents. Of course, falling wedges could still break down, okay? Even though it favors a break to the upside. Very important to be paying attention and risk managing if I personally have a position in these setups, okay? Now, this basically wraps up my video for today. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have a great weekend and have a beautiful day.